problem 3. Problem 3 is our 3 friends go grocery shopping. Okay, so 3 friends are going to go grocery shopping, and the total comes to $120. We would do this sometimes in college. We'll split the grocery trip because we're going to make meals together. So they want to find a way to split the bill. So they say, well, there's 3 of us. A third is approximately, knock it off, especially since I'm recording. That's just going to be taps on the recording.
I just got them this morning.
I'm going to bring you some drumsticks as long as you don't drum in my. You do?
Can you bring me some?
All of you guys are like, oh my gosh, something for free.
I'm kidding, I have some.
So, 34%. Each person paid 34%. How do I calculate what percent they paid total? Ben?
You would add it 3 times.
Yeah, and I could add it 3 times, or I could just say my 34% times 3. And that's going to give me 102%. So when we look at what percent did they overpay by, what percent should you pay when you check out somewhere? If the bill was $120, what should they have paid? What do you have to pay? $120. What percent would that be?
Like 100 something.
It's 100%. You pay 100%. You have to pay for all of the item. Do you ever pay for more than what you got?
No.
That wouldn't make any sense. Like,
It's for $500.
okay, so that's a little different. That's like different.
What about you give a tip?
That you don't tip like at a grocery store. You would tip at like a restaurant.
Store.
So when we look at what percent they overpaid by, they should have only paid 100%. So when we talk about the percent they overpaid by 2%, because we calculated that it was 102% that they paid. Yeah, Alex.
How did you get 3?
Because there's 3 friends. This right here, 3 friends.
Yeah.
So that 3 friends, that's where we got our 3. They each paid 34%. So that's why we said 34% times 3.
Oh.
That makes sense?
Yeah, because I'm doing the same one.
So then, when we look at the amount of their change, well, if they overpaid by 2%, their change will be 2%, and really I can just put 2% of the groceries, which was $120. Now, before I can do this multiplication, you have to move your decimal. Tells you to multiply times 120. 2 hundredths of 120 is $2.40. So that would be the amount of change that the cashier would give them back since they had overpaid. And for this to let me type it, there we go. $2.40.
Wait, did you save it?
Not yet, because it's disappearing for some reason. So everything kind of shifted in a weird way. It's really weird. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that, but I'll just capture it just like this. I should have captured before I tried to type in the answer.
Mouse is.
Yeah, I had to reset some settings to be able to record, so that's why it kind of looks a little glitchy, because it's recording as we do it. Anyone for problem 4, the college tuition problem?
No.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, last year, a college's tuition was $41,100, which that seems like a crazy amount, but that's pretty standard. Otterbein was in the 30,000s.
Is that your college?
Yeah. The tuition increased by 4%. Find this year's tuition using a percent greater than 100. So, last year's tuition was 100%. If we increase by 4%, that tells you to just add 4%. So this year, their tuition will be 104% of, smart words being weird, of last year.
Whoa.
Doesn't make sense though. It went up. It's going to be over 100% of what it was. So we get 104%. Now we can plug in, well, this as a decimal, I shift my decimal 2 places. I get 1.04 of tells me to multiply. Last year's tuition was 41,000. Oh, it was not 100. It was just 41,000. When I compute that, 1.04 times 4,100, or 41,000, sorry. I get that this year's tuition, we'll just call it T, is $42,640. It is more expensive than last year by 4%. I'm not even going to type it in. I know it's right, so I'm going to stop trying to type it in because that's when my smartboard gets all goofed up.
Smartboard is acting smart with you.
So pay attention that your questions will have different values, like different numbers, but it will be the same mathematical process.
Sometimes they actually do have the same number.
Right, because there's only so many of them.
Yeah.
Anyone for 5? You went to dinner with your friends?
Yes, please.
I'd like to go to Red Robin.
Good burgers.
They don't.
All right, so
Yum.
you go to dinner. You and a friend have lunch at a dinner. Adds up to a 15, or you want to leave a 15% tip when you pay with a credit card. Your friend says the tip on the $16 bill should be 24 cents. It seems like kind of a small amount to tip. The total amount will be $16.24 because your friend thinks you're only going to tip 24 cents. Calculate the total amount the dinner or the diner will charge your credit card using a percent greater than 100. So guys, again, we are increasing our whole amount. The bill is $16. But if I only pay the bill, I only pay 100%. So Nick, what percent am I actually going to pay?
115. And I had this exact problem, so I know the answer.
Yeah? So we're going to pay, just what Nick said, 115% of the bill. Well, the bill is $16, so I can just replace that with 16 bucks. I can turn this into a decimal value by shifting that decimal 2 places. So I now get 1.15 of, tells me to multiply 16. And when I do 1.15 of 16, I get $18.40. Now notice, if your bill was $16 and now it's $18.40, that tells me that the amount that we tipped was $2.40. Interesting that your friend got 24 cents. So this one I'm going to capture, but I am going to type in the answer because there's a second part to the question of what your friend probably did wrong. So once we type in 1840, we're then asked, what do we think our friend did? What did they do wrong? So, if I can get this to clear. He divided the amount of the bill by 15. Well, no, that'd get me a really small number. Calculated a 1.5% tip, not a 15% tip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because we are a tenths place off. Our decimal is one location wrong. So, considering I got $2.40 and they got 0.24, that's a power of 10 off. They calculated 1.5% instead of 15. Which, guys, if you tip 1.5%, that'd be really rude. You normally tip between 10 and 15%.
Wow, how dare you tip them?
You just add the money extra. But if you tip on a credit card, they don't get as much. So it's nicer to tip with cash.
Wait, I have a question about credit card. Speaking of that, that was my answer last time. I forgot to ask you. I know. When you were to, like, if you go to a store and spend like some money, how do they take that out of your account? Like, is it visible money? I know. How do they do that?
How do they do what with credit cards?
Like take money out the credit